NAB 2014, and this random guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, I need to be on camera more."
Borderline begged.
So yeah, so I said, "Okay, we will do an interview." So how's it going, Ryan?
It's going good. How about yourself?
Doing good. So it's day one. We haven't had a chance to see a ton of stuff out there, but still some great announcements have been coming out thus far. You know, Blackmagic's new camera and stuff like that. Anything that you've been excited about in gear that you've heard?
I mean, obviously, I did a video for it, so obviously I'm very excited about some of the stuff that Adobe's doing. You know, Lettuce has come out, Lettuce Direct has come out with something that I'm extremely interested to check out that I haven't had a chance to get my hands on, but they've been teasing it, and I'm really dying to find out more about that. FreeFly has some awesome stuff. Kessler has released some awesome, so it's really just stuff everywhere. I mean, what is it? Small HD has that in monitor grading now, which is insanely helpful, you know, especially if you're working with a client. So obviously there's a lot here that's exciting, but I come from a bit of a different angle where it's all about story-driven, what's going to help me tell my story best, less about just like, you know, tech-born, you know, even though I do get wrapped up in that as well.
Well, now, you and I have talked a couple times about like your YouTube channel was kind of your path to becoming a filmmaker. For us, our YouTube channel is kind of a byproduct out of us growing a production company. And I've been seeing you crank out more and more content, and the quality level just go through the roof.
Thank you.
What have you felt? Have you finally been able to kind of get to the place that you wanted to be and start creating the content that you've always dreamed about?
No, we're not there yet. And you know, I have suspicions that for the rest of my life I'll say we're not there yet. You know, you'll never be happy with, you know, what we have. But there is at least the first major goal, and that's feature films. We're getting very close, and it's really exciting because the momentum just keeps going up and up, as it does for you. You know, as it does with technology. It's kind of the same thing. Everything's just ramping so fast, and that's why NAB is exciting, because all this technology does help us push farther. You know, do better stuff, ramp that quality up. It's this democratization of making things easier for us to get our hands on that really is projecting us that way. But yeah, everything's been going in a really great path. We're really excited, and hopefully over the next year or two, you'll see even bigger and better stuff from us. Our main goal is just everything we put out is surprising from the last one. That's what we try to do.
Awesome. Now, how long have you been doing this? How many years you just started in the video?
Film Riot is 5 years. I've been doing this for, it depends on what, I mean, I started when I was 8, you know, so when I was 13, I started making actual short films with calling them short films. And then I started semi-professionally around 17, went to film school around 21, and then actually went full professional right after film school. So it depends on exactly where you want to start, I suppose. So I've been doing it all my life, but professionally I would say, you know, 10 years.
So the thing that I'm realizing too is like, we look at it and say, there's a lot of work that went into those 5-10 years, and a lot of steps that were taken. Then you get to a level where you start getting recognition and people appreciate your work. That doesn't negate though the work that went into those past years.
Right.
So the people that just see the success that you have now and go, how do I jump to that? I mean, there's no way to jump to that.
There is no way. It is a massively slow burn, and a lot of people suspect that there's this overnight success, which I wish. But no, we did, you know, it's still 24/7 for us, you know. I have a few employees now and I'm still working. I work more than any of them, just because I should. You know, I own the company, therefore I should be the one working the most. But it's still 7 days a week. It's still, you know, 15 to 18-hour days on average. During a project, we hit 20 and above. And before that, it was even worse. You know, when we first started out, when Film Riot first started out, once a week I'd go 48 hours without sleeping. And that's a 5-year haul just for that part of it. 5 years before that, just getting to that point, just the same sort of grind, working 3 jobs to build the gear up so you can build your demo reel up. So yeah, there is no overnight success for most anyone. I think there's like a 1% amount of people who have that overnight success. It's such like a shot in the dark. It's not even worth going. You have to just be passionate about the thing that you're doing and just go after it 100% every single day without fail.
Well, even for myself, like I look back and say, before I even got into filmmaking, I was in sales, I was in banking, I was in a lot of different career paths that led to give me a good background to be a good salesman when I'm presenting to a client or good talking numbers. So it's that life experience. If I got rid of that, I wouldn't be good at what I'm doing right now. What kind of things have you gone through that you feel make you a better filmmaker?
Yeah, I've had like a plethora of jobs. I've done the gamut. I've done almost. I think one of the only things I haven't done was work in the restaurant industry, but I've done tech support. I've done customer service. I was an electrician for like 2-3 years, something like that. I freaking did auto detailing. You know, I stocked shelves. I did a little bit of everything. Freelance, obviously. I ran a video studio. But everything that I did, I agree, totally led to this point. It made me who I am, and it made me be able to understand how to talk to people, how to sell something, how to work harder, how to be your own boss. The auto detailing was almost like your own boss thing. I had my own clients, even though I worked for a company, so that really prepped me for how to maintain that time. Electrical work is an obvious, you know, turnover of ideas and knowledge that I use now. So yeah, it's like everything that you go through is a little bit of that. So that life experience definitely does pour into what we're doing now. I agree.
Awesome. So for you, you've been kicking out some really awesome short films. Where do you see Film Riot going? Where do you see yourself going in your production company going in the near future?
Just hopefully up. You know, the end goal is feature films. Everybody always asks that, and I'm like, I thought we were crystal clear that we are just features. Please God, features. You know, that's just all we want to do is feature films. We love short films, and that will always be a thing. We're sort of, you know, two-tiered now. I mean, at the beginning, the ideas weren't as solid as they are now. It's exactly what we wanted to do. There was an upward momentum towards features always, but now we realize that, yeah, we want to hit the feature realm, and that's what Triune will be. But we want to turn Film Riot into almost this training ground for people who otherwise wouldn't have it, you know. Once, hopefully, I'm making my feature films, I'm not going to really make many short films, but that's a great time for us to start bringing in other talented people and start helping them build their talent in that short film realm, helping them in that, you know, on the stage of Film Riot to really push their stuff out there. So we're hoping to get to a place to where, you know, Triune Films churning out that sort of entertainment that we do now, where it's more just our stuff, but Film Riot's utilized more to bring the community that we built together more and give them more of a platform to really push them out there and get talented people out there even more.
No, one thing that everybody has a different answer for this question. For us, we don't get to do as many short films because they don't pay the bills. I mean, we do commercial corporate videos.
Yes.
For you, that's your main focus. What are you finding as your avenues for being able to fund the projects that you're envisioning?
Yeah, no, short films make no money. You know, they really don't. I mean, at the end, we'll shell out a ton of cash for a short film, and at the end, we'll try to sell some stuff that wrapped around it, like a digital copy, the score, things like that. But there's no real reason to buy that. I mean, that's online for free. But we're lucky enough to have a community that actually will pour into that a little bit, so it helps us recoup some costs, but not all. We just make it about Film Riot. So those short films that we make, Film Riot then will follow. And we have sponsors on Film Riot, so we almost look at it as a, you know, a really massive Film Riot episode. So we make the short film, and that creates a ton of content for Film Riot, and that's the way we're able to do it without breaking the bank. But short films are still just a massive passion of ours. We're figuring out a way to make it at least not so much profitable as much as just being able to parlay whatever we make from that into the next production, so we can just do bigger and better and bigger and better, and then one day be legitimately profitable from these sorts of things. But that's our main goal, trying to figure out a way to take that and just continually do bigger and better.
Well, there's a handful of YouTube channels that have been successful like yourself in order to be able to fund their passion projects. What would you possibly say to some other, you know, people that don't have large YouTube channels to lean on the community? What could they do to be able to make their passion project see the light of day?
Get made or just be seen?
Well, even to get made, of course, but to get enough attention that people would want to get behind the project.
Get made, you just do whatever you possibly can. Like before I had that audience, like I said, I literally had 3 jobs at one point, just saving enough money to where I could buy the gear and then pay everybody. It all came out of my own pocket, and I think I saved for about a year to do the film that I wanted to do. But in that year, it was just all prep, just all pre-post. So once we got to the shooting, that thing was so mapped out in my head that shooting was, you know, mostly a breeze because I was very new and there was plenty to learn. So it's just, if you're passionate, you just make it happen. However you have to, you just make it happen at whatever, you know, budget you can pull together for yourself. And it's also about writing smart, which we always talk about. Once it's done, getting it seen, that's a little more difficult, obviously, because there's so much stuff online. But if it's really good, the cream does rise to the top. That's so true. You might not hit millions of views, but you're probably going to hit thousands of views. If it's that good, people are going to see it and they're going to pass it around. Plus, you pass it to people like me that might have, you know, a modest to really good following. And, you know, I watch every short film. If it's sent to me, it's like, hey, could you check this out? I watch every single one of them. So I know Philip does too. So you send it to people like that, and if it's good, if you've made something good, they're going to pass it along in some way. Also, Vimeo is a great place to post because they have all those different short film channels. Then you can also, once you have it done, a really great idea is to pass it along to blogs before you release it, like Short of the Week, for instance. And if they dig it and you let them know, hey, this is coming out at this time, so they almost have an advanced leg up on it, they might just, put your thing up if it's good. But the first and foremost is making it good. If you're not there yet and people aren't responding, you might need, to work on a few things. So it's a matter of, not getting winded in the process. Keep pushing yourself, keep trying to make that thing better and better and better, and sooner or later, you're going to get noticed.
And that's not a bad thing. If you're not getting the attention that you want for a project, that you don't want to be typecast as the bad filmmaker. So having it be seen by a lot my isn't necessarily an advantage.
And I always say, if your project fails, that's awesome because you just learned a ton. You know what I mean? My big quote is failure is the bridge to success. The more you fail, the more you learn. You need to learn to want that. Obviously, you want to succeed in some area. And I made so many things that are never going to see the light of day because they're just heinous. They're so bad. And even written scripts are just so bad. But within all those projects, there were really great ideas that I can now pluck out and use. I mean, Tell is like an amalgamation of, I think, 6 different projects that I did before it that were horrible. But I was able to pluck out different ideas from all those and then put something, pretty good together, I think, So it's a matter of just keep trucking, keep trying, keep doing, and sooner or later, you will strike that gold if you're passionate about it.
Now, one thing you said earlier was how you were working 3 jobs to pay for the gear to do the job. Now, a lot of times we both hear I don't want to spend money on expensive equipment shouldn't be expensive, it's about the story and that kind of stuff. But we both know that there's limits that you get from cheap gear,
right?
And sometimes you got to spend the money to free yourself up as a filmmaker.
Yeah, my response is to a point for all of that. I mean, you don't need an Alexa off the bat. I want to use an Alexa, now I'm getting to the point where I want to use those cameras. But if I turn on a short film and it looks like it was shot on an iPhone, oftentimes, I mean, you can make an iPhone look pretty good if you're smart. So if all you have is an iPhone, you have to be really specific and really smart to shoot that thing. Don't move it around a lot. Shoot outside in the sun, hopefully shaded by, clouds so that dynamic range isn't blowing out like crazy. If you're really, really smart, you could do something with an iPhone. But now you got to worry about
controlling it to the medium that you're working with.
Right. But then you got to worry about audio. So whatever you have, you can utilize that thing. But again, that's all about writing smart. It's about knowing your devices, knowing their limitations, and knowing what you can do. So you're not going to make your epic, action sci-fi with an iPhone more than likely. That's going to really hurt you. You got to figure out what can I do right now with this gear, and then go from there. But not wanting to spend money. I mean, if this is your passion, these are your tools. You need to collect your tools over time. I don't, not to say that you can't, again, do it now. If this is all you have now, fantastic. But I think, invest in yourself. If this is really what you want to do, invest in yourself and slowly but surely grow that.
One thing I found, too, is the more that I spent investing in quality gear, the more comfortable I became as a filmmaker to understand technique, to understand what you're supposed to do, like actually exploring the dynamic range of a camera. If a camera doesn't have any dynamic range or a wide dynamic range, you can't really explore lighting in the shadows or something like that to get more creative.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden things are popping and you're like, wait a minute, that's all it took? So it's not, I mean, starting on the gear that I started on, I always, again, something I say way too often, it's like learning to play on the acoustic guitar and then switching to the electric guitar. Acoustic guitar is so much more difficult than the electric. You jump on the electric and you're like, my God, it's so easy, When you work on gear that doesn't have that range of the capabilities of the more pro gear, once you get to the more pro gear, it's like, really? I got to it that quickly? So that's helpful as well. But yeah, even when you get more professional gear, you take yourself more seriously. You're walking around with an iPhone, also your crew's probably not taking you so seriously. So those things come into play as well, which again, I'm not saying don't do with what you have now. Do with what you have now, but invest in yourself when you can.
And one thing I'll ask you, last thing, promise.
No, keep...
For story development, that isn't necessarily something that you do once and you're done. Drafts, you got to do lots of drafts.
Right.
How many people do you go through when you're working on a script? How many people are involved with you? How many drafts do you go through in a normal project?
I mean, there's no normal. I've started collaborating lately with my friend Seth Worley, who's unbelievably talented, more talented than I am, which is, that's the key. Find people more talented than you and dig in, you know what I mean? They'll teach you more than you could ever believe. But, you know, just writing alone, you know, that singular hateful experience in a corner of a room, just loathing yourself, I'll usually crack out a draft that I'm comfortable with. I'll probably get to my third draft, and then I'll pass it along, usually to somewhere around 10 people. I'll usually start out with like 3, get their feedback. The people that I really, really trust, that are really, really tight with me, they totally understand me, they totally understand that this is rough. Get back their initial feedback, make those corrections. Then I'll go to the next group. Goes back to that 3, but 3 more now. And then I'll make those corrections, and then I'll send it out to a wider audience. Because you got to be careful. Sometimes people can discourage you because they don't quite see what you're doing because you didn't nail it quite right. But if you have the right person that knows how to read a script, knows your style, knows what you're doing, they're going to say, oh, see, I see what you were doing here, but it didn't quite hit, do this. Whereas somebody else is going to go, this part sucked, where it didn't suck. You just needed to refine this one tiny little thing there. So it definitely is a matter of finding the right people to read the script, and not just your friends. If you can find a mentor of some kind, somebody who knows what they're talking about, obviously that's key. And that's not going to happen overnight, I don't think. It's taken me years to find those people, to get those connections where I can send it to people who really know what they're talking about. But, you know, blanket it. Show it to as many people as you possibly can. Just be cautious on who those people are. And one thing I did when I first started was if somebody didn't know how to read a script, but I really liked their opinions, I thought they had great opinions, I would find out what one of their favorite movies was, and I would have them read the script for that film. So they, you know, that's in their head, they're reading the script, and they're understanding how to translate those words to that visual. So once they read my script, they understood much more, and that was a lot helpful, and I got good feedback from them. So those are the tricks that I used over time.
Cool. What do you find to be the most difficult portion of script writing?
Starting. Starting is the hardest part for me, man. It's just like I think a lot of people are like this, and I think I don't do more stuff because I'm ADD, and I'll come up with an idea and I'll get really excited about that idea, and then like 2 days later I'm like, that idea's terrible. That's the worst idea ever, you know? So it's just a matter of digging in and actually starting. That's the hardest part for me. It's whenever I'm on a deadline and I absolutely have to, like our last short film, Proximity, is a great example. I had 10 days to finish a script and shoot it. So I had no choice. The script had to be written in X amount of days. I had to come up with the concept and write it, and so it got done. You know, whereas other stuff, I'm like, I have all the time in the world. There is no deadline. I'm just like, tomorrow. I'll start. I don't feel it. I don't feel it today. You know what I mean? So getting started is definitely the hardest part. And I think dialogue, making dialogue natural and real and not forced, because it's written and might sound great while you read it, and somebody's got to say that stuff. And sometimes it doesn't translate so much. So that can be a difficult piece as well.
Do you find your actors giving you a lot of feedback when actually getting to scenes that, you know, something may not flow correctly? And
I like to keep it open with my actors, so I'll send them the script, and depending, you know, there's some where you can tell they just need to do their thing. There's some that just want to put their fingerprint on it. So it's a matter of navigating all those things. But then there's the collaborators, actors who are true collaborators with you and are just as excited they're artists and you're doing it together. Those people, I like to get them the script, and I like them to give me notes back to, you know, see what they think. We sit down, we really talk about the character, backstory of the character, who this person is, you know, motivation behind words, you know, that whole what's my motivation sounds so hoity-toity, but it's really true. I direct that way. So if you're saying, you know, get the coat, maybe what you're really saying is don't leave. So that's a motivation behind saying get the coat. You're not just saying get the coat, you're trying to tell them please don't leave, you know what I mean? So it's the idea of getting those thoughts in their head, having them understand those lines, and then they can either find a way to make it their own in the way that they present it, or maybe there's a little bit of switching in there, and we like to keep a little fluff, a little flow, so they have that, you know, creative license to be able to switch things up to make it more capable for them to say. Because each person is going to be able to say the same dialogue and make it natural. So if they do need to switch it up, that's for the betterment of the film.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ryan. Great advice. Appreciate your time.
Special thanks to our sponsors for making our NAB coverage possible.